Hey, here's a quick way to make beats like using the music theory behind the beat. As you know, every major and minor scale have only 7 main chords. This means by creating chords using every note on the scale, like you know on 1, 3, and 5, you can only get 7 combinations. These ones are major and these ones are minor on a major scale, and these ones are major and these ones are minor on a minor scale. Don't worry about this one, it's not important. Now, 1000 Miles uses a 1, 7, 6, 3 chord progression through the entire beat. As you know, a 1-7-6 is my favorite emotional chord progression, a very commonly used one, so nothing really crazy going on here. We've seen this progression in a bunch of Juice WRLD as well as Polo G and Rod Wave instrumental. I believe that then they added this 3 chord because it makes for some nice voice leading from the 6, with this note being shared by both of them, and because the 3 chord leads nicely into the 1, which is our first chord, since they share these 2 notes. Now, when it comes to guitar melodies, the MIDI doesn't usually look like this. That's because the way the strings in a guitar are placed, you usually end up playing the notes like this, with the 3rd 1 octave higher and the root doubled. Also, you might have noticed the chords aren't placed right on beat. These 2 are 1 beat to the right. This is a common technique to help bring movement into a chord progression. I'm gonna play both an on-beat and an off-beat version, and you will try to listen which one has more rhythm to it. Could you hear how the second one has a lot more rhythm? Well, that's why they did that. This technique is especially used in guitar and piano melodies, by the way. And on top of the chord progression, 1000 Miles then adds a very simple melody. You can see how this is basically just a 9-note melody. If we check with our interval tree, we can see that the intervals in this melody go as follows, according to the root note of the chords directly below them. So 2 things I want to point out. The green colored notes we're going to consider consonances, which means intervals that sound good. And the purple colored notes we're going to consider dissonances, which means intervals that don't sound as good but help bring the feeling that the melody needs movement into the track. Based on that, you can see how this melody plays with consonance and dissonance to create a simple but effective melody. The second thing I wanted to point out is that in the very end here, there's this little descending progression which, as you should know by now, is an ultra common way to end a melody. This is used in hip-hop all the time and it works so well because it gives you the feeling that it's leading back to our 1 chord once the melody loops over. Okay, now we have the basics. Now let me show you an example on how to apply this information to achieve an emotional hip-hop guitar type beat like. Okay, so first thing, a simple and very classic 1-7-6. Of course, with the notes shifted a bit more offbeat so that we get more movement. Now, to variate a little from the formula, I'm going to add a second part that instead of going to the 7 goes up to the 3rd. As you know, chords 1 and 3 sound good together because of the notes they share, which creates a smooth voice leading. And now let's move the 3rds and double the roots so it sounds more like a real guitar. And from here you can either move this to your favorite guitar VST, or if you have one, get a real guitar to record this on. I did the latter. To make this guitar feel less empty, I'm going to add the same MIDI into these 2 pads. And now for the top melody. For that, I will usually start with chordal notes, so consonants, and then try to play with dissonances to create a simple melody. But this time, as I sometimes do with guitar top melodies, I just freestyled a little bit first and then chopped those notes into a melody that I actually liked. This is what I started with. And this is what I ended up with. And now all that's left is to add a simple high-pass intro and the drums. If you want to learn more about how you can use music theory to make better beats faster, I made a book containing all the information I gathered in my 4 semesters taking music theory. It's simple and straight to the point without all the boring explanations. There's a free and a paid version, so if you want to check that out, the link in the description will take you straight to it. Thank you so much for watching, and with that said, here's the final beat. See you next week.